Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this evening. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. Every week I come on here, I can't help but talk about the importance of us sharing our stories. I believe, as I've said before, that each of us has a story. And it is not only the successes in our stories that to me matter. Of course, it's important, but how do we overcome our challenges? How often we fall and how often we get up? How we deal with failures? How we get up and work through our failures, work through our challenges, work through our problems? My guest tonight and I are going to have a conversation about such things, about making it happen, about always finding a solution. But before I get into that, I want to introduce our new listeners to CWS. At CWS, we have conversations with people about their journey. How are you using your gifts and talents to help others? How are you making a positive contribution to humanity? I am always hoping that in these conversations, some young person somewhere in the world, and I say that because the show is global. It's through cyberspace, and so at any given time, anyone from anywhere in the world can tune in and participate. What I hope for in these conversations is that some young person might hear you not only talk about your successes, but how you might have overcome a challenge, and recognizing that they too can, recognizing that they might have a similar challenge and being inspired or encouraged to step beyond their limitations or challenge. And what I find is very powerful about that is not knowing the extent of your gift, not waiting around for a reward for giving, not giving with an expectation. And why I say this is to bring this point home. Imagine a young person somewhere, maybe in the Caribbean, somewhere in Africa, in Asia, somewhere, listening to you, being enthralled by you talking about how successful you are and your journey towards success, but getting a glimpse into the true person, your true character, as you mentioned a challenge that you worked through and overcame. And imagine that young person overcoming one of their challenges or having the courage to step beyond their limitation and one day becoming the next oncologist, geneticist, or the leader of a country that stops a genocide or something. Anything is possible. And this is why I'm always encouraging my friends or anyone to work to work on their ideas, to believe in themselves, and to just start. Very important to just start. I think there's a Chinese proverb somewhere that talks about the best tree, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time is now. And when I first saw that, it stopped me in my tracks because it's such a profound thing not to wait until tomorrow. Do it now. Start from wherever you are with whatever you have and see how far it can take you. Tonight, I anticipate a packed show, so I will cut this short and take a break. And when I return, I'll introduce you to my friend, Paul Hodgson. We are back. Good evening once again. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The gentleman next to me is Paul Hodgson, and my friend from London. Good night, Paul.
Good night, sir. Good morning.
Good. You just had to rub that in, right?
Oh,
Um,
yes, yes. Why not?
I want to go straight into your. Can you hear me properly, by the way?
Yes, I can. Yes, I'm
Okay,
hearing you
wonderful.
loud. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to give a brief description or a brief summary of your bio. Born in London to Guyanese parents, school and raised in Guyana. Attended Central Prep School and after passing common entrance exams went to Queen's College. When co-education was introduced to Guyana, was subsequently transferred to Bishop's High School. In 1977, Paul then returned to the UK, where he finished his schooling. He then went on to study electrical and electronic engineering, a postgraduate degree in management studies, and an MBA at Henley Management College. He started his career as an electronic test engineer and through a succession of promotions and job changes, headed up the sales and marketing department for major Japanese organizations across the EMA, that is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, region for a number of years. Throughout his career, Paul was able to establish a number of notable firsts, won the largest single order for his company, set the record for revenue achieved in a year, turned around failing sales team, enabling them to achieve their revenue and cost targets across EMA, first time in 7 years. Paul has now set up an organization that provides services for business owners, helping them with sales and strategic issues. He also mentors younger people, helping them to follow and achieve their career aspirations. That is a mouthful, sir.
I talk a lot.
My friend, you know, during my monologue, I spoke about this Chinese proverb, and there are two that come to mind as I embark on this journey with you tonight. All cats love fish, but fear to wet their paws, which addresses what we so often talk about: the importance of starting, regardless of where you are. And the second one is a single conversation with a wise man is better than 10 years of study. So I look forward to this conversation, and thank you for staying up so late to chat with us.
Oh, it's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Pleasure.
Um, you're in the UK, so I'm extremely grateful for the sacrifice. But let's get right to it. I have an idea of what you do for a living, Paul. But I find it safe to say Paul finds a way to turn things around. Is that accurate?
Uh, Sorry, can you repeat that? I got a bit of.
I often say that Paul finds a way to turn things around. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay. So
yes, yes. That's
can you tell us what specifically you do and how many years you have been doing this?
well. The truth is that it's something that I've been doing all my throughout my whole career, and I've not actually recognized that I've been doing it. It's only when people ask me that I sit back and reflect, and I actually able to see that it is something that I've been doing. So if I go all the way back to my very first job, um, well, that was some time ago. Uh, I, my first job I had was that of an electronic test engineer, and what I was doing there, I was fault finding down to component level on some communications equipment. And after a year or so, this thing became monotonous and boring. And I just basically decided, I found myself in a little box here and I need to get out of it. So I went off and decided that I was going to try and learn a little bit more about electronics. So I went and I found myself a course. And I approached my managers at the time and says, look, I've found a course that would enable me to learn a little bit more about electronic engineering. I'd like to go on it. But the problem is that it will necessitate my taking a day off work. And they weren't too pleased about that. So, so I was there left with this situation where I was bored. I wanted to progress. I wanted to learn more. Where I had seen that I could do so was being blocked by my management. So what I did was I went down to the university and I basically spoke with them to see what alternatives existed. And seeing that there weren't many alternatives there, I went back to my bosses and said, well, look, I want to do this thing. And if I'm able to do it, it'll actually help me to become a better worker for you. You'll improve in your throughput, you'll improve in productivity, etc. So how about we do this? What about if you allow me to go there for a half a day, and I'll make the hours up over the week? Is that a feasible way in which we can work this thing out? And eventually they agreed, and so I went, and that's how I started off doing my HNC in electrical and electronic engineering. So I had to bark the time with the bosses before I managed to move forward in that particular perspective. The strange thing was that, sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry. No.
Yeah, the funny thing was that there were other guys in the team that wanted to do the same thing, but nobody put their hand up. Nobody wanted to go to the bosses and ask them for such an arrangement, but this idiot did it. So I went and I did it, and I got through. And after I'd finished my first year, it was quite funny. Everybody else then sparked up with the courage and said, hey, you know what, let's try it now. So that's what happened. And in the second year, I did the same thing. And but I was glad because I got what I wanted out of it.
Mm-hmm. Who can, or rather, what kind of customer can benefit from your experience, knowledge, and expertise?
Well, right now, the company that I run, we basically we focus on small to medium enterprise organizations, which are effectively companies that have employment of anything between 0 and 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do basically is I speak with the business owners. I try and understand what it is they're trying to achieve, what struggles they're currently experiencing, and we just sit down and try and work a way out in which we can help them. So it's not in any specific market sector, but it's more the business leader, the business owner, who's genuinely struggling. Because I think running a business these days is a very, very lonely experience. It's very difficult. And many business leaders are trying to achieve things, but they lack the resources, they lack the time, they lack the people to speak with, they lack the experience, they lack the knowledge. I mean, there's a lot of lacks. And I really just try to sit down and talk with them and try and help complement wherever they're lacking and see if we can come up with a viable solution for them.
Where would you say most entrepreneurs go wrong in managing their business?
Where would I say what?
Where would you say most entrepreneurs go wrong in managing their business?
In my experience, it's quite a variety, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the basic fundamental problem is that a number of entrepreneurs have started up a business because they had a great idea. So, for instance, someone may have a great idea about making cups. Now, that's his skill and expertise. He can make cups. But there is a problem. The problem is that every business needs money. And so the business leader or the business owner who makes cups may not fully understand or appreciate the importance of cash within their business. They understand it when they run out of it,
mm-hmm.
but they don't understand it when they need it. They don't understand how to get it in place, and understand how to make sure that things like cash flow are a necessary issue for them. So they struggle with that. Another thing a number of business leaders I've found have challenges with is that they sometimes underestimate the time it takes to do things. Because again, some of these entrepreneurs have come from larger organizations where they have a lot of resources for doing various things. But when they're on their own, those resources aren't there. And so for them to take something from position A to position B, that takes quite a long time, because they don't have the financial resources, nor do they have the manpower to actually achieve what it is they're wanting to achieve. And sometimes they want to achieve it in the same time that they were able to do so when they were in a larger company. So that's another problem for them.
Do you, and you mentioned these things. Do you ever? I know you advise small to medium sized businesses, but do you ever advise the new entrepreneur, one who is now about to start a business and comes to you for advice?
Yeah, well, right now I'm helping a couple of people that are looking to set up business plans. There's somebody here that's looking to set up a franchise chain of a franchise food industry is what they're trying to set up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll sit down and we'll talk with them. I'll try and help them to understand the market they're trying to address. Try to help them to quantify the market size that they're looking for. Trying to help them from a financial basis so that they understand clearly how to put a financial plan in place to help them achieve what it is they're looking to achieve. Looking at the strategy. You're looking at the competition, the competitive landscape. All these little areas we look at.
How do you encourage people to try a new approach? What is the carrot, if any, you dangle?
To try a new approach?
Yes.
Wow. The important thing for me really is that a business leader, again, I found that some business leaders would do things that they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're comfortable with a certain approach, then in many cases they may have the attitude that what I want to do now is I want to go ahead to try and achieve this thing in this particular way because this is the way in which I'm comfortable. And sometimes if they're funding it themselves, then that becomes quite an emotive issue. So sometimes you have to let them do that and see the folly of their ways before you're able to actually change them and give them an alternative. So that's one type of entrepreneur that we found. Mm-hmm. Also find some others that are indeed genuinely open to ideas. And what I have tried to do is that I don't actually tell somebody what to do. I fundamentally believe that as a business leader, you will know what markets you're trying to address. So we would look at and explore options for them, and then perhaps encourage them that if they take a particular route, we will try to encourage them to be aware of all the potential gains they may get from taking that approach, and also the potential weaknesses in taking a particular approach. So we try to open their eyes about the whole landscape thing. So in terms of encouraging people to do something differently, that's what we will do. We'll basically explore all the options and just take them through each option and hopefully give them some form of a SWOT analysis, if you like, of each option so that they can make a credible judgment about which option will be best for them.
Do you enjoy what you do, Paul?
I do. I love it. I love it very much. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy seeing people become successful.
What is most satisfying about your job?
What is most satisfying? In one of the roles I had, I actually was managing a sales chap who was very good. He had a handful of accounts, and every month he would hit his account. He would hit his revenue targets. But I looked at him, and I could see that he was he wasn't being stretched. So I challenged him. He was uncomfortable with this, but I challenged him nevertheless. He was looking after about 5 accounts. I said to him, you need to look after 7 or 8. He didn't like that much. But what I then did was I said to him, if you did 7 or 8 as well as you do the 5 that you're doing, this is what it'll mean to you in terms of your commission, etc. Then his eyes perked up. Anyway, I encouraged him. The net result of that particular story is that that chap trebled his target for that year.
Wow.
And he since then has gone on to better and greater things. But the sense of achievement I got from that was that I had proven to him that he could do a lot better than he was actually doing. And of course, financially, he felt a lot better. And he now was able to see that instead of just looking after 4 or 5 accounts, he could now have the capacity to look after 7 or 8 accounts. And all we looked at really was trying to help him to adjust his approach to things. And that gave me a certain buzz.
How might what you do work to promote innovative ideas in an organization?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear what you said.
How might what you do work to promote fresh and innovative ideas in an organization?
How do I do that?
How might what you do help to do that, to inspire that?
I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but if you're meaning,
Let me try it another way.
yeah, sure.
In your approach to sort of helping these small to medium sized businesses, you've had a
Yes.
lot of experiences in sales and turning businesses around and so on. How might
Yeah.
those attributes help to inspire fresh ideas in a small organization?
Right, okay. Well, I find that they say success breeds success. And I think that if someone has heard that we were able to do something for another organization, sometimes it inspires some form of jealousy or whatever you want to call it. And they think, well, okay, let's see if you can do it for me. So that acts as an inspiration. And sometimes in approaching someone, I've used the example of that chap who has trebled his targets and gone on. Sometimes I just challenged. In this particular instance, I just challenged him. He was uncomfortable at first, but because I was so sure that he had a lot more in him, and I was able to help him to see that if he had accepted this challenge, it would result in a lot of benefits which he wanted. That inspired him. And by helping him through that transitional phase from where he was to where he needed to be in order to achieve, by helping him, supporting him in that period, that also inspired and encouraged him really to be able to try and work at what we were talking about in order to generate the success. And it worked for him. So I find that there's different reasons why people get inspired or challenged to achieve.
One of your mantras, Paul, and it's on the ad: right attitude, right approach, right strategy. Why is this important to you, especially right attitude?
Right attitude is important. Yes. You know, we have a saying in Guyana about being wrong and strong,
Yes, I remember.
right? And
Is,
there's a
is
lot
that
to be said.
but Paul? Before you continue, are you advocating for the pro or the con of being wrong and strong?
Well, I will say that you know, people can be right in what they say, but try to execute through a wrong attitude,
Hmm.
right? And that doesn't generally bode well, particularly if you're trying to work within a team environment. You know, salesmen are notorious, for instance. People have this profile of a salesperson or as a successful salesperson. Successful salesperson must be aggressive. A successful salesperson must be hard-nosed. A successful salesperson must be um, unforgiving. I don't necessarily subscribe to that at all because I don't have some of those traits. I've got some, but not all of those traits.
Hmm.
But I like to think at least that I've managed to succeed in my own way, and I've also managed a lot of salespeople that haven't those attributes, but they've been exceptionally great salespeople. But the common thing is that I have found that if a salesperson is to be successful, that a right attitude is is of paramount importance. The reasons for that is because you may need a favor from someone, you may need help, you may need resources, etc. And oftentimes, if you treat people well, you will find that they will respond and help you, and they want you to succeed in turn. But if you've got an offish attitude, that doesn't really inspire or engender people to want to help or support you as much as they would if you had a better attitude towards them. But that's just my experience.
Let me just go to the chat room. Carol said, how are small businesses doing in the UK? Are there opportunities for black women entrepreneurs?
Well, that's a very good question, actually, Carol. There are a lot of. I have to say that when I started off in my career, there weren't. I was the first black person in many organizations, and when I used to go to trade shows, etc., I hardly used to see any black people. But now, thankfully, I see a lot of black guys, and I see, more importantly, for this particular questioner, a lot of black women. I also am seeing a rise or an increase of female entrepreneurs, which is absolutely fantastic. So, yes, they are on the rise. I wouldn't say that they are at the status or level as we should be, but the encouraging thing is that black women are getting more and more entrepreneurial, and I really am happy and pleased to see that.
And well, Carol said again, wrong and strong, like that.
You like, yes, yes,
Jen
yes,
Jen asked, so it is about relationships, right? I guess
yes,
Jen was referring to the sales. She's,
yes, yeah. Well,
oh,
again, another common phrase that's used is that people buy from people, and that's true. That's very true. I found in my own experience that areas where I've been successful, it's because that I got on well with the people, and in fact, I've got many of my customers are friends,
how
and I'm really happy and proud of that, because that says something when you have a customer inviting you to their home to meet with their family, inviting your family to come to meet with their family, etc. I mean, that says a lot. I've got these are customers in France. I've got a customer in Germany. He got married, sends me pictures about his wedding and his wife, and tells me about his family. It's really rewarding to see that one is able to actually have such an impact with another person on a humane level that makes them want to warm towards you. And you don't have to be aggressive in order to succeed in actually selling to this particular person. But if you just be yourself, be a genuine person, have a right attitude towards people, treat people as people, and people warm to that, and people respond to that, and people buy from you, because at the end of the day, people buy from people.
there's as you said that I remember a documentary I was looking at. There's this Indian CEO. I think the name of the company is HCL, that turned the company around from 700 million to 4 point something billion dollars, and he implemented a model that says employees first. So he discarded all the old paradigms about a boss has to be stern and has to be tough on employees and all that. And he treated employees with respect, with love, made sure that employees had everything they needed. And what happened? It worked because the customers obviously benefited from that and demonstrated their appreciation for it by giving him more business. So from a
Yeah.
700 and something million dollars business, he turned it around to 4 point something billion dollars. So I agree with that. Let me just go to the chat room a second. Karen G said, interesting that you're noticing more women entrepreneurs in the UK, and it is the same in the US and around the world. What is this rise in the women in business about? Any ideas?
What is the rise in it?
Uh-huh.
I, I think there's a number of issues. I think um, historically, um, historically, women used to be at home. Historically, the man was the breadwinner. Historically, the woman was the housekeeper or the person that works at home. However, I think through a succession of various changes politically, economically, socially, um, and particularly economically as well, the cost of living has changed so dramatically over the years that it's become necessary for the women to do two roles now. Sorry, I hope that doesn't sound too sexist, but to do more roles now. And it's become more necessary now for women now to go out to work as well as working at home. And the men also have to work at home as well. So life has changed very much so. And so that's one thing. We've had one of the things that's being addressed at the moment, or is trying to be addressed at the moment, is the issue with women in the boardroom. Here in the UK, there's a great movement for trying to get more women in the boardroom, because it's been proven that women, through these, they're better at some soft skills than men are, and consequently they're able to. I mean, again, going on about this business of right attitude again. Some men have this profile that they feel they need to be hard-nosed before they can achieve. Women don't necessarily have that as a general comment, but they have found that women in senior management roles have been able to help inspire and motivate teams better than men have. And so consequently now there is a rise, there's a growing trend of women becoming more and more representative within the boardroom. And they want to have this to start increasing more. It's moving a bit too slowly, but we can certainly see that it will happen.
And Karen G said, people do business with people. Sorry, people do business with people they know and like. And Jen said, as a black woman, I believe women can do anything they want. But why do you believe many of us are scared to get into business?
Well, I don't think that that's an issue just that's the sole domain of women. I think there are certain men who are also very scared to take that risk to move out. But when you're looking at entrepreneurial spirit, you're talking about somebody who's saying, you know what, I can make this on my own. Now, what standpoint are you starting from? What starting point are you coming from to make that decision? Some people are doing it when they're unemployed, so they've got no income. So they're saying, look, I've got no money anyway, let me have a go. Fantastic. Some people are in a job and they're not feeling happy in their jobs, and they're less. They're finding a very strong challenge, a great challenge, to move from the apparent comfort and security of the job to go out into the wide world and to do something of their own. So I think really that the issue of people taking that risk is something that's inherent within both men and women.
I want to ask you this question. One question before I go on a break, and I'm gonna go go into your timeline a little bit. What can you tell us, Paul, about the foundation your education in Guyana gave you in preparation for life?
Wow.
Yes, sir.
If one thing I have to really thank the good Lord for is my education in Guyana. I left Guyana in 77 and I came here and I had to take an entrance exam to get into one of the top grammar schools in this county. I did that and I passed it. I attribute that to my education in Guyana. When I started to attend the school, I realized very quickly how great the education in Guyana was. For instance, I was now going into a classroom with English guys who couldn't spell. And that was foreign to me.
Wow.
I was in an English classroom, which when certain mathematical problems were issued, people couldn't compute this thing in their mind. They're hustling for a calculator, right? And I was sitting there in this classroom, and somehow when we were at home, there is a sense that we feel that everybody else in the whole world is better than us.
Yes, true.
They're better than us educationally. They're better than us technologically. They're better than us financially, etc. And they may well be in certain areas. But on that fundamental point of the education that I certainly had in Guyana in the mid-70s, and I can categorically say that it was streets above the one that I experienced when I was here.
Well said. I think this is a good note to take a break.
Okay.
We are back with Michael Beach. We are back with Paul Hodgson. So, Paul, in the chat room, Karen G said spelling, reading, writing, math, and comprehension issues. Welcome to the US. It's a real issue here. I think
Mhm.
our education was great now. Great now we have to restore. I think our education was great. Now we have to restore it and become more innovative and open. And Jen said, what do you say to those who do not believe enough in their idea?
Who don't believe in their idea?
Who do not believe enough in their idea? Yes.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a lot that's quite a legitimate fear. So, um, what I did, for instance, with my particular job and in my particular opportunity of opening up my business, is that it's quite natural, I feel, for someone to feel nervous about making that jump if you're moving from a secure employment situation into doing whatever you want to do in your business. Some people, if they feel nervous about that, not a problem. You could do it on a part-time basis and test your idea out. That's what I did. I was working for a major Japanese company for a number of years, and I was traveling all over Europe, Middle East, and Africa with them. And occasionally when I got back home, we had here within the UK, there was a governmental body which provides or used to provide help to SME business leaders. And I was affiliated to that. So occasionally I would get asked to go and help some small businesses. And I used to do that, and I used to charge a fee because it was something I was doing out of sheer love. But in so doing, that's when I got the idea for my business. And so I set my business up, and I was doing it on a part-time basis to test the idea. And that's how I started. And once I saw that the idea started to pick up, then, gradually got the confidence to do it more and more on a financial on a full-time basis. So my idea will be if you're in that position where you're not too sure, if you have an idea, you think it will work, you're not too sure about it, do some testing.
I'm going to go back into your timeline again because I want to really give our audience a more three-dimensional perspective of who you are, where you came from, and so on. What is your strongest memory of your childhood growing up in Guyana?
Oh, well, I loved Guyana with a passion. I still do love Guyana with a passion. What I liked about it coming through the schooling system, I liked the camaraderie that we had in our schools, all the way down from Central Prep. I enjoyed the camaraderie there. The discipline, I liked. I got beat with the wild cane plenty times, but but anyway, it was all part of life. But I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the discipline. I enjoyed the camaraderie, and I enjoyed the people that were there. After my common entrance and going to QC, again, that was I appreciated something about that, which I will share later. But again, moving to a bigger school like QC, again, the same thing. The people within the class, the dynamics of the various nations that we had.
Yes.
The people was fantastic.
You're talking.
I remember when we were at QC, we had a real wild bunch in our class, and that we had formed such a close bond with each other in our class that anybody coming into our classroom that we didn't like, we used to club together, all 30 of us, small boys in short pants, hold on to these people, bump them, and throw them out of our classroom. Right? Such was the camaraderie that we had. Um, and the interesting thing I'd found from being in QC as well was that despite the size of the school, even when you were outside of school, people still recognized you and acknowledged you and said hello, etc. On being transferred to Bishops, again, a similar thing. Um, of course, I met up with some friends from Central, some girls that were from Central went to Bishops, and also I went with some of my friends from QC to Bishops as well. And again, the same thing. There was something special about the culture within the Guyanese schools.
Before you go into that, I wanna go this ask you this. Well, I met you at Queens College, and where it was all boys, and then we were both transferred to Bishop's High School to commence the fourth year of coeducation in the top schools in the country. What do you remember about that experience, and how did it affect you as a young teenager?
What, having to move to Bishops?
Yeah, yes.
Well, I don't recall anybody wanting to do that. Um, you know, me and my friends, when we heard that basically we were going to Bishops, it was like, oh, man, why? I don't want to go to no girls' school, etc., etc. Um, I think we were in the year above you,
Yeah,
and that certainly was our feeling. We didn't want to go.
I didn't want to go.
Um, and but anyway, when we went, we found it wasn't as bad as we thought it would be for whatever reason. And Bishops turned out to be an enjoyable experience as well for me. And, I have no qualms whatsoever being associated with Bishops. In fact, I found it to be a very, very, very good experience for me.
Well, saying that, how would you rate the effects of coeducation in Guyana?
The effects of co-education. Oh, I'm a little bit out of touch with how it's performing now.
Okay.
Um, but certainly, historically, if you look into Guyana's history, that most of the captains of industry, shall we say, they heralded from either QC or Bishop. And then, of course, obviously Saints and St. Roses. So, traditionally, if you had a boys' school and a girls' school, dedicated boys and a dedicated girls' school, there was some positives in that, in what it brought about. Um, I'm finding it a little bit difficult to answer that question now, because
That's
to
okay.
me, it's not quite a straight comparison, because it's not just the schooling thing that has changed in Guyana now, but the whole economic situation has made an enormous difference as well. And that has also had an impact on a number of key issues on the schools. So I'm not too sure I could answer that question with any degree of authority, to be honest.
I get that. Let me ask you this, and this is a question that I've been asked several times, and each time I had a different answer. And I am not too sure if I have the answer, but so I'm going to pose it to you because I respect your brilliance, sir. Um, the question I keep getting asked is, did the culture at Bishops change, transform us, the boys that went over there, or did the boys transform the culture of Bishops, or didn't, or none of that happened?
Oh well, I think it's inevitable that some of it happened. I mean, when we walked through the door, they
Right.
had a lovely they had a lovely manicured netball court. You know, that doesn't exist anymore. They had lovely manicured lawn tennis courts. That doesn't exist anymore. I mean, we turned that into a cricket pitch,
I forgot about that. I really did.
right? So this, and also the fields themselves, they were. When you've been to QC, you know the comparative sizes of the two school fields. There was nothing, you know. The Bishops fields were a lot smaller than those in QC. So from a physical perspective, Bishops wasn't initially catered. You can see it wasn't catered for boys there.
Right.
Um, on the other hand, some of the things that they had, which we never had at QC, were good for us. I think. I mean, there was cookery classes. I think that was good for the boys to learn. There was needlework. I think that was good. I think I have the honor of being the first boy to mess up Mrs. Fox's sewing machine. So she, she, I don't know if she taught you sewing, but she taught me, or she tried to teach
Yeah,
me
she
sewing.
did. She did.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
She gave me this brown paper to do some stitching in a straight line and told me to do it nice and slowly with the pedals. But it was going too slow for my liking, so I decided to speed up. Next thing I hear was ping, 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 and all sorts of things started to burst and break, and needle break, and all sorts of things. So anyway, I never lived that one down. But but you know, nevertheless, learning needlework was an essential skill for boys, and I think it was great, as well as the cookery. And also, we learned some of the girls' games. We played netball with girls and stuff like that. That was good. That was good.
We played netball with the girls.
Yes,
Yes, of course.
you did.
What was I thought of going somewhere, but I changed my mind. Um,
I'm glad I did.
yeah,
Have
yeah.
to do
Was school fun for you, Paul? And what were some of your favorite subjects while you were in school?
subjects at school.
Yeah,
Maths and physics.
maths and physics. So,
Yes.
what did your teachers tell your parents about you?
You really want me to broadcast that?
Yes, sir.
Um, they felt that I should be a little bit more disciplined in my approach to school.
You know, I have a few more questions, and I'm only asking these questions to serve as
Yeah.
a compass to where you are today. You know, you who, as a busy and successful entrepreneur, find time to mentor young people and help them to follow and achieve their career aspirations. So, I just want to spend maybe a few more questions about that period of your life.
Yeah.
What kind of activities were you involved in during high school?
I was very much involved. It was my cousin actually that introduced me to drama. When we were at QC, he mentioned to me one day, Philip, he mentioned to me one day, he said to me, look, I joined the drama club, you want to join it? And I said, what's that? And he explained to me drama meant acting. So I said, yeah, great. So I enjoyed acting. And from there, I actually ended up writing a number of plays, not just in school, but out of school, doing a lot of plays and a lot of productions and stuff like that. So that was one key thing that I really enjoyed. Sporting, I used to love cricket, and everybody in QC played table tennis. I used to love and enjoy playing that too. Um, so those were my two things. And the other thing was I played music as well. I used to play the violin, the piano, and steel pan. So I enjoyed those three areas within school.
How significant is mentoring to you?
How significant is what, sorry?
Mentoring.
Mentoring. It's important. I think for me personally, I was a late developer. I really got serious about school after I'd left school. After it had started, after I'd started to link what my future would equate to with the level of education I had, and of course, combined with the right attitude. And so now I try to instill, I try to mentor many people in as many ways as possible. So when I see youngsters now coming up through school, I try and encourage them to be more attentive. When I see youngsters now leaving school, going on to university, I try to help them understand what it is they're going to get into. When I see youngsters now trying to start up with a new role, a new job, if they're going into a new job, I try and help them to say, well, fine, okay, you're here as a production worker. Let's see how we can chart a course for you to become a production manager. And that's, I always seek to try and help people to do as best as they can do for themselves. I don't know why, but that's just me. I just try to help
Let me just shift to
people.
the chat room a bit. Terrence asked, who are some black business persons you admire in business?
What are the black business persons I admire in business? Um, well, here, I mean, we've got a couple that I've admired. There's a program here. I expect you've got a similar one in the US called The Apprentice. I think you've got Howard Trump. Is it Trump, the guy that
Yes.
runs Apprentice? Right. We have a similar program here that's run by another multimillionaire. And in one of his first series he did, there was a black guy in there that had actually won The Apprentice. And he, with that, his name was Tim Campbell. With that, he got £100,000 per annum job, got a position in this huge corporate. He's left there now, and he's set up some trusts. And again, what he's doing is trying to help mentor young people through some of the initiatives that he has instigated. So I admire that. I also admire the people that are not so famous. I know a number of young people here who work within the music industry. I know I got a good friend of mine here who does a lot of work within the music industry. He's a teacher, and he's actually written a course for musicians as well. I admire him. I admire also another guy that I do know, that again nobody ever knows about because he's not a famous person. But what he did is he has a heart for homeless people. So he has set up a like a homeless charity, and he does a soup kitchen for people and stuff like that. So when I'm talking about success, I'm not necessarily talking about somebody who has scaled the heights of enormous financial wealth, but I'm talking about someone succeeding where they want to succeed, doing what they want to do, doing what they feel more passionate about. And these three people, they do it in all their own separate ways.
Patrick said, great conversation. Risk is synonymous with business. How would you teach and encourage young children to take risks?
With my son is now setting himself up as an independent musician. And I say to him, son, whilst you're here with me, now's the time for you to make your mistakes. So that's what I tell him.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him that now's the time for you to make your mistakes whilst you're here with me. I'm not going to allow you to do it all the time. But the important thing through the mistake element is that you learn from them. I don't believe in failure. I believe that when you don't achieve what you're looking to achieve by what you're doing, you've just learned how not to do things. And for me, that's an important distinction. The issue of risk, again, risk is a subjective issue, I think, in many ways. But nevertheless, it's a real point and it's a real issue. So like I said earlier, some people take the approach whereby they will test the market by retaining, if they're in employment, they will test the market whilst they're still in employment and gradually see how they can mitigate that risk if ever they encounter any challenges. Or alternatively, if you have people that, like I said earlier, haven't got a job and they're wanting to do something, then it's a risk. But at the same time, if you've not got any income, the financial risk to you there is minimal in some ways. I'm not degrading the effort that you have to put in there, but the financial risk that's there is somewhat minimal by comparison. But I'll always ask people to mitigate the risk. And I know of people who have, they have done some really wild things. I know of guys, I mean, we talk about Bransons and all these people in the world. They have lost millions. Some of them have lost millions of money, millions of pounds. Some of the great entrepreneurs that we know of here today, they've lost a lot of money, but they've bounced back. They've got this thing within them that says, I can succeed. What I've done before has failed, but what I've done before hadn't worked, But what I've now done is I've learned how not to do it. Let me try this other way. And they just try and try and try until they succeed, until they eventually succeed. And that's how they've mitigated their risk.
Dawn said, or asked rather, can you speak to any challenges that you have faced as an entrepreneur and how you've overcome some of them? How you have overcome the hurdles?
How have I overcome
The hurdles.
the hurdle?
Yes.
Sorry, which hurdle?
Let me reread the question. Can you speak to any challenges that you have faced as an entrepreneur and how you've overcome the hurdles?
Yes, I must say that I haven't always succeeded. That's I will say. I don't want to give the impression to people today that everything I've touched has turned to gold. That's not been the case. But I'll just highlight this issue as to where one hurdle I succeeded. I took on a job with a major Japanese organization. I can't reveal anything, but they are one of the largest companies in the world, and I was asked to head up a division which covered Europe, Middle East, and Africa. This company, this particular division, had been set up 7 years previously, and all those 7 years, they had never ever hit their targets. The day I walked through the door, the Japanese director said to me, "Paul, I'm glad to see you. I've got some news for you. We've just put the targets up." I said, "Thank you very much. You've never hit targets, and now, as soon as I walk through the door, you have put the targets up." So that's made the job equally more difficult. So that was a major challenge for me. The net result is at the end of that year, we hit the targets. So I was extremely proud of that. How did I do that? Now, first thing I'm going to say is that I did it through observation. I looked at how the team operated. And once I looked at that team and how it operated and interacted with each other, it was blatantly obvious to me that what needed fixing wasn't major. It was some minor points. Oftentimes when things are going wrong, many people look for some major, deep-rooted reason as to something that needs to be fixed, in order to generate a positive result. In this instance, it wasn't the case. And so I looked at some very simple things. First of all, our strategy. The salespeople in the team had become very comfortable with a small group of accounts. I highlighted earlier about this chap who had 5 accounts and was doing very well with the 5 accounts. But the team as a whole was targeting small clients. The reason they did that is because they had found a comfort zone, and they had got 4 or 5 regular clients that they were getting regular money from them. The fact that they weren't getting enough money wasn't an issue for them. They were comfortable with it. So that was the first thing I saw. They targeted the wrong clients. I stretched them and told them, "Thank you for focusing on these small clients, but it's time we looked at the bigger clients." We put a plan in place for that, and thankfully we started to win some big clients. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, in order to prepare them, what I had to do was to coach and mentor them and to change some of their skills and their attitudes, etc. We did that, and thankfully it worked in some cases. I had one bad egg in the whole basket, but nevertheless, as a team, we did it. The second thing was communication. I was talking earlier about attitude. Within the team, we had a sales team, and we also had a technical team. Now, within this group, the sales team never spoke with the technical team. They saw each other as enemies. I cut that right out. I just basically integrated both teams, put them to sit next to each other and force them to start talking to each other. That helped enormously. Within a matter of a month or two, all of a sudden, what had happened was that this, rather than it being a fragmented group of people, we had a team. The third thing I did was I changed the sales meeting from a sales meeting to a team meeting, a business meeting. So everyone felt as though they had a part to play. And we did that. And we worked on some other bits and pieces. And that's how the team gradually had turned around from being a team that wasn't achieving to an overachieving team. So those are just three instances within that particular environment where I had faced some challenges that we were able to overcome.
Karen G said, "Don't you think that we have to have don't you think that we have to have different conversations with kids from quite small and expose them to different environments? Our conversations in the kitchen, during dining rooms, and cars need change. Need change.
We have to have different conversations with people.
With kids from quite small and expose them to different environments.
Oh yes,
Our conversation, right?
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more. Um, I I listened recently to someone was saying recently about the need. In fact, it was tonight. Sorry, it was tonight. I was listening. I was listening to a psychologist who was talking about adolescence, and she said that when kids hit a particular stage in their growth period of adolescence, this is a time when they're starting to, and she used the term, negotiate with life. She also said this is a time when kids are now going to migrate from being influenced from their parents to influence their peers. So it's a very, very delicate time. What she was advocating was now is the time when parents are being sidelined by their children. Now is the time for the parent to become a little bit wiser in how they actually approach these children. So they need to start to teach them some fundamental principles. One of the principles she said was to need to teach them the fundamental principle of give and take. The second thing she said, teach them a fundamental principle of negotiation. Now, why did she mention these two things? She mentioned these two things because as the child is now moving away from the parents to the peers, the child is now going to have to start experimenting with different groups of peers. And as that child moves from one group to another, they're going to start encountering different issues. They're going to start encountering, they're going to start to learn about the complexities of relationships. They're going to start falling out with people. They're going to start having to try sometimes to conform to other people so they can become accepted. And all these little complicated things, which we now take for granted, this is what's happening to children during the adolescent stage. And so they said the parent really has a great responsibility now to ensure that they start to teach some fundamental principles in our children. And that is one of negotiation and give and take. So I wholly applaud that question from that person, because I think that's very, very true. Because these basic skills of negotiation and give and take are life skills. And they will help you not just now in your adolescent stage, but also throughout your life.
For the youth that are listening to us, Paul, what advice would you give them about career aspirations?
Follow your dream. Work out a plan as to how you can actually make that dream work. Speak with people. Speak with people that you know have either done what you want to do, or they've done something else and succeeded. Speak with people that you know have attempted things and failed. It's important to learn what makes things work and what makes things not work. Gather that information. Be like a sponge. Pick up as much information as possible about that. Test your ideas is the second thing I'd share. Test your ideas to see whether your idea is a workable solution. And there's no harm in attempting something and it not going right. Try it. You will learn from that experience, even if it doesn't go right. Try it. Try it
Terrence,
until something does go right, and then you'll know how to make things work for yourself.
thank you. Terrence asked, what is the biggest challenge in running your business?
What's the biggest challenge in what, sorry?
In running your business.
Time. Right now, thankfully, we're in a position now where we're having too much work for our capacity, and we're having to recruit people. And that in its own self is a problem, because you need to find a person that is not only capable of doing what you'd like them to do, but they'll fit in with how you would actually do things.
Mhm.
So now, thankfully, through our success, we're having a capacity challenge.
I want to ask you this question before we go on and then take a quick break. If you could go back and change something related to your education or training, what would you change or what would you do differently?
I would have liked to have learned things like, right now I see schools are teaching business studies, which I think is excellent. Um, I wish when I was a child that they had given us that option. That's one thing I'd change.
Let's take a quick break, Paul. We are back with Paul Hodgson. Paul, what do you look forward to doing on the weekends?
On the weekends, I do a variety of things. I if the weather's nice, I like to pot around in my garden.
You
Um,
do gardening, Paul.
I wouldn't call it gardening. I just basically try and maintain and tidy it up. We pull out the weeds, you know. Now I'm seeing that the leaves are starting to fall, so you know I've got to get those blown away. So that's what I do. I go to church. I spend time with the family. You know that's what I do for the weekends.
I hear that. What is the hardest thing you've ever done?
The hardest thing I've ever done. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
The har-
That's a tough one, right?
it is. Yes, it is. It is. I suppose on reflection, the hardest thing that has impacted me has been to um, leave Ghana when I did.
Ah,
Um, yeah. When I left Ghana, I didn't leave Ghana. I didn't emigrate when I left Ghana. I came to the UK with an intention of returning. But my parents spoke with me and suggested that I stayed here. And so I did. But I didn't bank on the impact that it would have on me.
hmm
Um, the I was talking earlier about the culture of the schools in Ghana, and the culture of the schools here in the UK were far different. And I'd found that culture quite difficult to adjust to in so many ways. So that, I suppose, is one of the hardest things I've done.
Um, in the chat room again, um, Karen G said you made a great point earlier about successful people and failure. I think we have to let people know failure is a stepping stone to success. These are lessons. So with the lemons, make lemonade.
Yes.
And Jen said, asked rather, why would you stay up to appear on CWS?
Why? Because Selwyn bribed me.
Why?
No, 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 no. No. Look. I'll tell you why. Because I admire and appreciate what CWS is attempting to do, and I'm a full supporter of it. And if in any small way I could contribute to try and help its propulsion to become better or more global or whatever, I would do so. I mean, not that I can actually do that, but to give him one more face on his lovely collage of faces he's got on his website, not a problem.
Thank you, sir. I really, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate that. I can't
But
wait. I cannot wait to include your face on that wall.
Thank you. Yes, don't throw darts at it. But, can I just say one thing about this issue of failure that that person raised?
Sure.
Um, I think the reason why I agree totally with the person when they said that they used the word failure is a stepping stone to success. The reason why I don't like using the word failure is because, unfortunately, I have seen how the power of that word has negatively impacted a number of people. I know of a number of, we're talking about black people today. I know of a number of black people who have been labeled as failure. And they've walked around with this psychological box, has enclosed them and entrapped them within this box and said, you cannot come outside of the confines of this box because that's where you deserve to be, or that's where you are, or that's where your lot is. And unfortunately, I've found that this word failure has had such a damaging psychological impact on people that I don't like using it. So this is why like I said earlier, when I speak to my children, if they use the word failure to me, I say to them, look, you haven't failed. What you have done is you have learned how not to do something. That way, I think they feel as though that they can actually see what they have done that hasn't worked. They can see, you know what? It's okay that I did this and it didn't work. I can try something else. Conversely, when you talk about failing, people feel there's a finality to that and that they will stay within this box. So that's the only reason why I don't use the word failure.
Are there any trends that are exciting you these days, Paul?
Any trends
Yes.
that are exciting me?
Yes.
I'd like to say West Indies cricket, but no, I have to give a pass on that one. Trends that excite me. From a technological perspective,
Yes.
I like things that the mobile technology that's coming out now, the flexibility it gives. I like the fact now that I could Skype my mother wherever she is in the globe. I like that. Communications has gone a fair way now to help really maintain bonds. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this in the 70s, you know.
That
I'd
is
have
true.
to write you, and you'd have to write me, and it could be 3 months before we exchange those two letters.
Very true.
You know, so these are things that excite me.
You're talking about your mother. What is your favorite memory of her growing up in Guyana?
My favorite memory of my mom,
Yeah.
uh, her cook-up rice,
You know.
her cook-up rice. I like the way she spoke to me sometimes.
Yes.
Um, you know, I've often told people, you know, that I have the best mother and the best father in the whole world. And that's because I felt that they treated me fairly.
Right.
They reminded me when they needed to. They loved me when they needed to. And I've always appreciated that. So forget money or anything like that. The fact that they can be a loving parent to me was of utmost importance. And of course, the cook-up topped it all off.
You know, you spoke so eloquently about failure and the impact the words, because I do believe words are very powerful and really do shape how we look at life and how we live our lives. And you spoke about failure and you know what it does to people. But I want to ask you something about marketing. How much of marketing is really removing barriers, mental barriers or cultural barriers, or something that blocks someone from really wanting to do something?
It's very important, I think. I often use a little demonstration on the power of marketing, or should I say the power of positioning. Okay, because after all, marketing is taking a product, a solution, or a service, something, whatever it is you have, and putting it before you and making it attractive for you to want to buy it. Now, an interesting test that's often shared is that if I were to give you a pencil, a normal HB pencil, and say to you, here you are, Selwyn, buy this. If you give me $100, buy this. You can have this pencil. Would you buy that?
No, sir.
Okay. If I say to you, I have a 5-bedroomed house with a garage, swimming pool, etc. You give me $100 and you can have that. Would you buy it?
I'll first ask you if it's haunted.
Sorry?
I will ask if it is haunted.
If it's
Sorry, I'll buy it. Yes, of course I will.
unhaunted,
I couldn't resist that.
if you're not to be exercised,
I couldn't resist
central
that.
heating, everything. Right. So the issue here is that it wasn't the $100 that was the issue. It was your perception of what you're getting for the $100.
I like that.
Yes?
Yes, I do.
Even if you didn't have $100, you would find $100 to get my house.
Yes, sir.
Even if you didn't have the $100, you wouldn't even bother to get my pencil.
Right. That's true.
The $100 was not the issue. It was how I positioned what I had and made it attractive to you that got you or incentivized you to want to purchase it.
So is it safe to say then that when we do not succeed in selling, marketing, or encouraging someone to buy something from us, it is because we have not positioned it right?
I gave you a fairly simple example there, but I mean, obviously, in terms of selling and buying certain things, the issues are far more complex than that. But fundamentally, it's a question of it's a question really of making things attractive to a potential purchaser.
Gotcha.
So I need to understand what are those hot buttons of that particular purchaser, so I can present whatever it is I've got to tick those buttons, so it makes it an attractive proposition for him or her to want to buy.
Paul, if you had one regret about what you do for a living, what would that be?
I haven't made my enough money right now to retire.
Oh my gosh. There goes my idea of asking for a donation out the doors. Okay, sir. Thank you
Well, I
very
knew that
much.
was coming, so I thought I'd just block it right
Yes,
away.
exactly. You're quite intuitive and telepathic, right? Okay, wonderful. Let me just go to the chat room before I get into trouble here tonight, Paul.
Okay, sir.
Karen G said, I totally agree with you, and I used it on purpose. We need to understand there is no box. It is all psychological. However, we talk about each other this way, and I think we need to get over it. And
Yes.
Dawn said, you have spoken quite eloquently throughout this interview and have given several pearls of wisdom. As a female startup entrepreneur, what would be one take home message you would have for me?
One message for a female entrepreneur:
Yes, sir.
go for it. Be courageous. Go for it. And don't be scared of not succeeding initially. Speak with people. Speak with your friends, family, people that have failed. Sorry, people that haven't succeeded. People that have succeeded. Talk to as many people as possible. And follow the courage of your convictions.
Tell us, my friend, about your personal philosophy for life, and how that informs the way you approach. Or let me put it another way. How that informs the approach to how you conduct yourself personally and professionally.
My that 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 passage of scripture I quoted there really it it says about a good man is he provides a legacy for
His
his
children's
children's
children.
children.
Yes.
Yeah. What I particularly like about that is that naturally we would all want to look after our children. But in this particular scripture, he's stretching us and saying, look, what you're building, don't just build for one generation, but build for a second, a subsequent generation. So what he's saying is that you need to make sure that when you build something that lasts and that can endure.
I like that.
My father told me that one of the things my father told me was that in his own small way, he has built a platform. He said to me, Paul, there's no point you starting to build that platform again. You should start to build on top of what I've done. And that's something simple, but something that stuck with me. The need to build for our future. And so I'm trying to instill that principle into my children as well. A sense of longevity, a sense of sustainability, a sense of endurance. Make sure that what you're building will last.
Na 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 na. Oh yeah. Oh. Jah, you're my strength. You're my strength.
Very eloquent, sir. If you had a chance to go back in time, what would you tell that 15-year-old boy battling with adolescence?
What would I tell myself?
Yes, sir.
I would tell myself, go back and complete your education in Guyana.
Wow. Finish this sentence. The best part of Sunday evening is.
Sorry,
The best part of Sunday evening is. Finish that sentence.
best part of Sunday evening is eating, having a lovely dessert, relaxing, having time with the family, and then going to bed.
Do you have a particular practice to relieve stress, sir?
Me? Yeah. I like watching sports.
Any favorite? Well, other than cricket, well, what's your other sport that you love?
Okay, well, the other sport I watch is soccer,
Mm-hmm.
football. I should say soccer really for you. I like that. I love table tennis, as you know.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, those are the games I like.
So what kind of music you listen to relax?
Music, I listen to a range. I listen to soul, reggae, gospel. I listen to a lovely range of music.
Are you
I love all genres.
huh? Are you working on any projects at the moment you'd like to share with our audience?
Yes, right now I'm doing some work for another Japanese company, and they are wanting to establish themselves here in the UK and subsequently to Europe. Want to set themselves up basically to sell some solutions to Japanese companies in the region. So I'm involved in trying to help them set a strategy for that, and also once that's agreed, execute the sales and marketing initiatives to try and help that start to succeed.
What are you most proud of, Paul?
What am I most proud of?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so many things I'm proud of. I'm proud of my children. I'm proud of I'm particularly proud of my son now because um, I I see him trying to carve a future out for himself as an independent musician,
What
and
kind of music does he play?
he plays steel pan, he plays drums, and those are the two main instruments he plays.
Hmm. Chip off the old block, I see.
Well, I'll tell you what, his chip is bigger than my block now. He's
Uh,
far better than I am. He recently um, went into a competition with lots of other steel pan players who play in the Notting Hill Carnival. You probably heard about the Notting Hill Carnival.
uh-huh.
And he came third. And he had only realized that this competition was happening 2 days before.
Wow.
And when he turned up there, he was the only one that they didn't know because everyone else comes from all these big bands. And I was proud and very shocked at how well he played.
Tell him
And
congratulations.
and I was very happy that he actually came third. So he was disappointed. I thought, my goodness, boy, you know, you know, um, when
Tell,
you should be proud of your achievement, you're disappointed. You come third. So, yeah, I should have won that. I thought, boy, you're taking competitiveness to another level. But there you go. That's him. That's
well,
him.
I remember a certain young man in short khaki pants crouched over a table, a tennis table with a racket in his hand that would not take no, losing for an answer. So
No, no,
again, I reiterate, a chip off the old block.
probably yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Um,
I am a little bit competitive. Yes.
Don said, "Thank you. That was very inspiring."
Well, thank you, Don. You're very kind.
And please share some closing thoughts. Tell us why we should care about business or care about being an entrepreneur, and why should more women feel encouraged to pursue their ideas and their dreams.
Okay. Um, Women should be encouraged to do this because I think it will help them from a self-esteem perspective. It's always very fulfilling to know that you have an idea in mind, and when you execute it, it succeeds. That is undeniable. Secondly, from a point of view of the fiscal reward that you can get from that, some people set out to do this for various reasons. If your reason is to get some form of a nest egg for yourself in the future, fantastic. Follow your dream. Make sure you get a great pension out of it. Third thing, some people want to do it because of the potential freedom they may get at some time in their lives by running a successful business. Fantastic, do it. So, for a number of reasons, I would encourage any woman to continue and follow their dream. Why should you care about it? Because in many ways, your business would represent you. Um, it'll have your faults, it'll have your weaknesses, but at the same token, it'll have your strengths, it'll have your passion, it'll have what you're good at, what you excel at. And if those are the things you're proud of, then you should really take care of your business because it's an extension of yourself.
Paul, finally, what makes you laugh out loud?
Makes me laugh out loud.
Yes, sir.
Oh, many stand-up comedians, situations. Um, yeah, I mean, tonight I was watching a program, and this Italian chap, he's obviously never lay down in a hammock before. He lay in the hammock, and he was trying to pull a blanket over himself, and he couldn't quite do it. Next thing he knew, he was out the hammock, and I couldn't help but laughing at that because he was such a novice, right? He was there pulling, and couldn't stop himself pulling, and of course the whole thing just tripped over, and there it was, he was gone, and that made me chuckle.
I have to ask you this, right? And only because we went to the same schools actually.
Yes.
If you were standing in the auditorium and all our teachers were sitting facing you, listening to you,
Hmm.
what would you want to tell them?
Thank you.
Paul, you are indeed British by birth, you're and character. I mean that it reminds me of Winston Churchill, the man who
Uh-huh.
made the best shortest statement. Thank you. I like that. I like that. I think I will do the same. Thank you very much for so late. Please give my
Awesome.
regards to your family, and I really appreciate it. Really.
Thank you, Selwyn. And I also wanted to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing. If in some small way we're able to help somebody through our various experiences through the people that you interview, then it's worthwhile. If
Thank
you
you.
only help one soul, it's worth.
Thank you, sir. And as I said, I can't wait to put your face up on that wall.
Yes, yes.
So, my brother, good night. And
Yes, sir.
God bless.
You take care. God bless you, and thanks to you and all listeners. Take care.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh God, is this the new world that you order? I really wanna know, 'cause if it's so, things ain't better, no better than before. Is this the new world that you order? I really wanna know, 'cause if it's so, things ain't better, no better than before. Listen my story, please hear me, cha-cha, yeah. Make me a promise. Another confrontation between my wife and myself. Oh, yeah, yeah. Now how the hell me going get out of this one? Another problem again. The wife asks if there's another woman, or is she just a friend? In the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't guilty of anything. But we all know woman intuition, so I probably won't win. I say, who are you talking about? She said, here's her number, there's no doubt. That's when I realized it was best to shut my mouth. And she said, I wanna know